to Angela, who is our Copilot specialist. She'll be taking us through Microsoft's AI software today, Copilot, and showing us how it works and some live demos as well. This should hopefully be handy for you because we get asked a lot, well, how is Copilot different, or what capabilities does it have compared to other AI models? Just a few housekeeping points. So the session will be recorded, so don't worry if you need to go back over some parts because it'll be sent to you afterwards. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat box. But we will hopefully have time for a Q&A at the end anyway. But otherwise, I think I'll hand over to you, Angela. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Vicky. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining. So I've got the pleasure of talking to you all things Copilot today. So hopefully you'll find it really interesting. This is the agenda that I'll be going through with you today. I'll be basically telling you about AI trends, how quickly technology is moving. Then I'll jump into Copilot and the demonstrations, so how it actually works within applications, so the demos. You might want to go past that as well with your productivity gains. You might want to start, customizing your own experience around AI. So I will be talking a little bit around agents. And we'll tie it off with a readiness assessment that you can request through Cobweb and open it up for any questions. So let's get straight into it as to why our organizations are adopting AI. Now, it took 2 months to reach 100 million users for ChatGPT. And as you can see in this graphic, it's taking less and less time to adopt technology. So to put it into a wider perspective, because these are months, it took 17 years for mobile phones. It took 7 years for the internet. We're all using the internet today, and yet only 2 months for ChatGPT. So technology is moving quickly. Generative AI is not going away. We do not want organizations to feel like they're being left behind, and maybe your competitors have adopted AI and they're, being a lot more productive with their operational efficiencies. And then you're coming to Cobweb and the team to, request for an AI tool, and it might take longer to adopt if you wait too late, because, as I said, it's moving very, very quickly. Now, to put it into perspective of Copilot has been established for 2 years now. And on the first year alone, there were 300 updates. So everything that you can see in the background that's rolling, these are new things that you can do within applications that you couldn't have done before, the first couple of months, etc. And that's just the very first year. So you can imagine the second year, there would be a lot more as well. So although I'm going to give you a flavor of what Copilot can do today in certain applications, it can do so much more. But obviously we can't squeeze all of that in one session, but hopefully it will highlight some of the main features and capabilities. But yeah, hopefully that paints a better picture that Copilot is evolving and we want you to evolve with it. There is something called the Work Trend Index. Every year, Microsoft creates a report. It's basically an annual report. They run a survey to lots of different types of countries and organizations in order to understand their take on AI. So I highly recommend you have a look at the full report online. It's free to download. And I'll just give you a breakdown as to what was in this report. Obviously, there's going to be a new one coming up this year, but obviously we've just started this year. So first of all, to become a frontier firm, okay? So this is an organization that's a lot more forward driven and forward thinking in AI. So phase 1 would be you adopt Copilot, and that's where you start to gain your productivity through certain use cases in Outlook, Teams, PowerPoint, etc. So that's phase 1. And then you will start to think about your individual productivity. What types of documents do you look at a daily basis, for example, or do you have certain repetitive tasks? And then you would introduce your organization to agents, and those agents will do specific tasks for you, whether it's updating a spreadsheet every time you have a new update, for example, or even just summarizing certain lengthy documents. So that's phase 2. Phase 3 is really looking into your business processes. So once you've got your productivity gains and you've got your individual gains from your agents, which is basically your own co-pilots, phase 3 would be really looking at agents as a whole for the organization, and allowing these agents to do things that you don't necessarily need to constantly ask it to do. So, for example, replying back to your emails with frequently asked questions on it on your behalf. Okay, so you don't constantly have to say, yes, please reply back. It's just going to do that in the background whilst you're focusing on your priorities. That's just one example. But yeah, that is basically the journey of becoming a frontier firm. So we're talking about phase 1 today, and hopefully if you're looking to adopt Copilot in the near future, we will be moving you through these phases. Okay, so let's talk about, obviously with the intros and the overviews, employees are interrupted every 2 minutes. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say this. So I've put myself on do not disturb today on Teams, so I'm not pinged through messages, and I don't have emails coming through whilst I'm delivering this webinar. And I'm obviously creating new content, I'm delivering the content, etc. And that's just me on a daily basis. So I'm sure that you've got lots of different workloads that you need to do on a daily and weekly basis. Now, hopefully the demos is really going to bring it to light as to how is Copilot going to help you with, multitasking and, admin tasks, mundane jobs, and focusing on your priority work. This is really important, okay? So 85% of people are already using AI at work, and 80% of them bring their own tool to work. So most likely employees within the organization are already using AI with or without the organization's permission. So they might be using like the free version of ChatGPT, for example, because it's easily accessible over the web. It's free. Maybe they have a personal subscription, and they just need to digest some content, and they haven't got that tool in the organization, so they're going elsewhere to use it. But that also might be posing risk to the business if they're using a consumer solution like that, and they might potentially be leaking information outside to the public web. So I am going to highlight obviously more of the differences between them. But yeah, this is also a good thing, because if a lot of people within the organization are using AI, it's not going to be so much of a behavioral change if you adopt Copilot, because they're already used to speaking to another AI tool to instruct it to get the information that they want. It's just using something a bit more secure like Copilot, and getting the information that they want in the same way. Right, so we've gone through the intro. Hopefully you've got a bit of an overview as to, where technology is going, the interests of AI within organizations. So let's get into Microsoft 365 Copilot. Just before I get into that, I do want you to think about, where do you see improvements in the business? So would it be to improve the quality of people's work? Maybe get rid of that human error, maybe in HR and finance, etc. Would it be to speed up certain business processes? Where do people spend most of their time on those repetitive tasks? Are those repetitive tasks classed as admin jobs? And then we can start thinking about automation. And then effort would be, maybe you just want to give employees a better experience in working, maybe to retain them. Now, all of these areas I do want you to think about, because it's going to make a lot more sense as to how is Copilot going to help you improve these areas that you want to improve on within the next 6 to 12 months, etc. As opposed to the other way around, and join the webinar, I just want to learn about Copilot, really link it to how is it going to work for you and your organization. Okay, so that was food for thought. So take that away with you, because I'm getting straight into Copilot now. So Microsoft 365 Copilot. This is your AI assistance that is integrated within your Microsoft applications. So when you open up your Teams, your Outlook, your PowerPoint, and all of your other Office applications, you have got Copilot within those applications. You don't need to go over a web in order to access it. You have that seamless experience. So if you're looking at your emails and you need assistance, Copilot is right there with your emails as well. Okay, let me break it down as to how does it actually work. Yes, I know this is quite intimidating and you don't really know where to look, but I'm going to break it down as to, How does it differ from another AI tool, for example? So if you focus on the top left-hand side, obviously I mentioned Copilot integrates within applications. So let's say we open up our Microsoft Word. When you open up your Microsoft Word, you get a ribbon at the top of different types of features, to change the font, add bullet points, etc. You also have a Copilot button. Click onto it, ask it a question or a command. Let's say, for example, Copilot, can you draft me a business proposal based on Project X? This is classed as a prompt. You are instructing Copilot, okay? So that's your prompt. Your prompt is then sent to your Microsoft Graph on the bottom left-hand side. Now, your Microsoft Graph is your internal data. So anything that you have access to, Copilot has access to. So when I say access, this is anything stored in SharePoint, your OneDrive, your emails, your Teams messages, for example. And it can also access things over the web. So you don't need to go over the web to do your internet searches. You can stay within your Word, and it will. You can toggle on web browsing, and it will pull information from over the web as well. Okay, so that is your Microsoft Graph. It does respect your permission level. So say, for example, 5 people within my organization has Copilot. It doesn't mean all 5 of us will then have access to areas of the business where we never had access to it before, because it respects your permission level. It can't go beyond that. So that's really important to note, that people can't abuse using Copilot, because it's basically what they already had access to. Okay, so that's your Microsoft Graph. Let's say, for example, Copilot has picked up a couple of PDFs. Those PDFs are then sent to the large language model on the right-hand side. Now, consider the large language model as the brain of Copilot. So it's going to try and reason, what did you just instruct it to do? So it doesn't just want to give you a data dump. It doesn't want to give you 100 different references for you to figure out which one's most important. It wants to give you an informed response. And that response is deposited back to your application. So it goes back to your Word application. It'll give you a summary in its own words. But it doesn't stop there. It also citates where it's got its information from, every point, etc. So you can verify it. Okay, so you never really have to second guess it. Okay, hopefully you are all still with me. So that's how it works in the background. The apps, the graph, the large language model, they all work together simultaneously. Now, anybody that uses ChatGPT, the free version of ChatGPT, or have used it in the past, anything that you input into ChatGPT, when I say input, I'm talking about the instructions that you're giving it or documents that you're uploading to it, it's saved into public data. So you are training the model, the large language model, every time you use it, which is why I mentioned you might be posing risk to the business if an employee is asking quite sensitive information to something like the free version of ChatGPT. Whereas Microsoft 365 Copilot has been designed for business purposes. So you can confidently ask those questions. You can ask questions like client information, give it financial information, anything that you deemed as classified and you would not want leaked outside of the organization or shared with a colleague that doesn't have access to those areas. And it's not trained on your prompts. Copilot is not trained on your data. It has enterprise data protection, so corporate protection. Okay, so it's been designed to use it securely for work. Okay, so be reassured that Copilot is the safe way of working, basically. Okay, so I've been sitting on this slide for quite a while. Hopefully you all understand, and if you have any questions, please drop it in the Q&A. Now, let's get into the most interesting part, which is the demos. So I'll build up on these in terms of how it actually works. So let's start off with Outlook. Alex and Megan have both been discussing opening up a new store in London, and they've been going back and forth on emails. So now they're talking about tasks, ownerships, budgets, etc. And I know we've all been there when we've got a long chain of emails that we've just been CC'd in and we're not really sure where to start. Now with Copilot, you have something called Summary by Copilot. If you click onto that, it gives you a summary of what's been discussed in that chain. It doesn't have to be a chain, it could be any email. Now Megan is replying back and she clicked on Draft with Copilot. And Megan is basically telling Copilot, can you draft me an email to accept my tasks in the inventory? And that's it. she's not even mentioning what the tasks are. Now, she doesn't actually need to because she's clicked reply. So Copilot is going to figure out what she needs to do because there are other emails linked to this email. Yes, if you clicked on new message, there's no other emails linked, so you'll have to be a bit more specific. But in this case, because she's clicked reply, she doesn't have to be. There was the option to change the tone or the length of the email. So if you want it professional, if you want a shorter email, then you can choose your option. Get it to generate, and as you can see, it's bullet pointed the tasks in the inventory. So Alex is fully aware what he doesn't need to do. You can regenerate it for a different response. You could tweak it further, like what I'm doing right now. You could say add another point. In this case, I've typed in make it into a poem. I'm not encouraging anybody on this webinar to send poems to your colleagues or clients. This is just to keep it lighthearted. We are on a webinar after all, and we have a couple of demos to get through. But as you can see, Copilot has transformed my email into a poem. Now, all I've showed you is Copilot can draft you an email, but when Copilot drafts you an email, it's not going to initially really sound like you. And you might get frustrated saying, well, that doesn't sound like me. I'm going to have to change it. That sounds way too professional, way too casual. There is an area within Outlook where you can actually tell Copilot how you sound on email. So I'm telling Copilot how I sound. So I'm saying I like to greet people saying hi. My tone is highly professional. I like to use British English language, sign off my email saying best regards, break a line, then say Angela. So when I'm asking Copilot to draft me an email this time, it's going to follow those pre-instructions. So I don't need to be specific on my prompt because I've got pre-instructions already built in. And as you can see, it says, hi, Bailey, best regards, Angela, etc. You could write a lot more than I have on your pre-instructions. You could say, I want less than 200 words on my emails. Every time I get these questions that come through on email, this is how I like to reply. So when you get an email like that does come in, you just need to say something very basic to Copilot, and it will pull that template and paste it onto your drafted email. Okay, so you can get Copilot to sound like you. How about if you just prefer to write your own email? You can continue doing that. So I'm going to write my own email. I'm going to say, hi, Emma, thanks for our previous meeting. Let's discuss plans for a webinar. I'm free on Friday. This time, I'm not going to click onto draft. I'm going to click onto coaching. Coaching looks at how are you going to respond to a recipient? So, sometimes we've had really tough days. Maybe we're coming across a little bit short on our emails. I'm sure not intentionally, but Copilot will pick up on the tone, the clarity, and the sentiment of the email. So under tone, it says, rather than saying perhaps we can schedule, change it I would love to schedule another meeting. Under reader sentiment is basically saying encourage engagement and interest. So ask a few more questions around this webinar planning before our next meeting. And if you have any spelling mistakes, it will be under clarity. I don't have spelling mistakes, but Copilot has picked up that I need to be more specific because I only mentioned I'm free on Friday. I didn't mention any times. So rather than waiting for Emma to come back saying, yes, I'm free on Friday as well, and then me going back saying I'm available at this time, just get straight to the point. Now, you can revise that email with Copilot, as you can see there, and you can choose whether to replace your original email or just click on insert below and it would drop it below your original email. So you can just pick and choose the parts that you want to take on board. Okay, so you have two choices when it comes to writing emails. Get Copilot to draft you an email and make it sound like you, or write your own email and get Copilot to help you better your writing style. This is a real life scenario because that's how I used to type. I used to say perhaps and maybe a lot on my emails. Basically, I used to type like I'm just talking out loud. And so, perhaps we can do next week. Maybe this workshop is more suitable for you. And sometimes my replies back would come back, in a couple of days, or it would be left for 1 or 2 weeks. And since becoming more assertive with Copilot's feedback, I actually get my replies back a little bit more quickly than I used to. So it's definitely a win for me, but obviously there's a preference, draft or coaching. Now, we have all been there. We might be there this morning where we have lots of unread emails on the left-hand side, right? And how is Copilot going to help us organize our inbox? So let me play the video. I've got lots of unread emails on the left-hand side. Let's just assume they're not from myself. It is just for demo purposes. I'm going to click onto chat. Okay, and it opens up a side panel within your Outlook, gives you a couple of suggested prompts, it gives you a microphone, speech to text, but this time I'm going to write my own prompt. I'm going to say, Copilot, can you have a look at my unread emails and can you categorize them in 3 groups? Now, we all know the types of emails we receive, don't we? So you could probably put them in certain categories, just like what I've done. So I said, people asking me for new jobs, complaints that have come through, clients that I need to onboard, because there is a way of speaking to Copilot. If you only said, Copilot, can you summarize my unread emails? If you had 50 unread emails, you would get 50 bullet points of a summary of those unread emails, and you might not find that very efficient for you. Whereas if you take a little bit more time and explain what's more important to you to Copilot, you'll get something a bit more easy on the eye to digest as well. And as you can see, it's separated it in the groups. It's told me time-sensitive messages, which is basically the complaints, and also a suggested priority order. So what I need to address ASAP and what's least priority. So Copilot can definitely help you figure out what you need to address ASAP and what you can pick up later in the day. Okay, help you organize your inbox. So that is Outlook. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to be showing you some of the main features. It's not the be all and end all in Outlook. It can do so much more, but hopefully you get an idea how you can get started with Outlook. So let's talk about PowerPoint. Some of you may not use PowerPoint on a daily basis. And you might feel like you're not creative enough, it's time consuming. I guarantee if you have Copilot, you're probably going to start creating presentations. So I'm going to click onto Copilot, create a presentation, and I'm going to ask Copilot to create me a presentation around Copilot. But this time I'm going to transform a Word document, or I'm going to get Copilot to do this for me. I'm going to get Copilot to transform a Word document into a presentation for me. So you can attach up to 5 documents. I'm attaching 1 Word document, but you can attach a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, a PDF, for example, but up to 5 of them. So I've just done / I found the Word document that I want, which is Welcome to Copilot Recruit, and then generate it. Now, it's not going to create your presentation straight away because you might want a co-editing say. So Copilot is going to structure that Word document to a presentation style. So this is where you get a co-editing say. So you can change the flow, you can delete the areas that you feel like is not relevant for a presentation. And when you're happy with it, then generate the slides. Now, let Copilot do its thing and start generating you the slides. All of the images that it creates are AI generated images or stock images, so you don't have like any copyright issues whatsoever. It will create you speaker notes. So if anybody delivers things over Teams, you have speaker notes to obviously support you with your delivery. And a common question that I do get is company branded templates. I'll get to that on my next demo. But as you can see, whilst I was speaking, it's created me 21 slides. And if I say I want to keep it and I'll put it onto presentation view, you'll be able to see in a bit more detail. It's added animations to some of my fonts. It's given me an agenda, and even some of the images are placed in different ways. It's given me cover slides. So it's quite professional looking. All of the information is relevant information from that 1 Word document. And you could probably use this as a first draft, maybe. I personally use Copilot for PowerPoint as a first draft, and then I just go back and just do my personal tweaks myself. But it takes me far less time than starting from scratch. Believe me, I used to take hours, if not days, creating presentations, whereas now it literally takes me a matter of minutes just to tweak it. Okay, so you can get inspiration from Copilot and never really start from a blank canvas. And you can further edit it as well. So even if you have existing slides, you can further edit it with Copilot. Now, As I mentioned, company branded templates is a very common question that I get. So again, when I click onto Copilot, there is another box that says change design. So if you click onto that, it will basically show your company branded templates under your organization. And then even the Microsoft ones, so the ones that you could just use off normal templates. So let's say I chose the orange experience. I have fast forwarded this demo just because hopefully you get the idea, but I am actually being quite specific now. I'm saying I only want less than 5 slides. So Copilot doesn't generate me 25. Now, just bear in mind, it might not take into account the intro slide and the conclusion, but it will still try and follow your instructions. And as you can see, it's followed the company branded templates. It's the orange experience with the same color scheme, images, and font size and type as well. So it does respect your branded templates as well. Right, let's move on to Teams. So I'm sure we all have Teams meetings. How is Copilot going to help us note take? So in order for Copilot to work, you need transcription on. I am catching up on a meeting. So the meeting has already ended. I've gone back into my meeting that I've missed. Now, in this demo, you're going to see recording was turned on, but recording is not compulsory for Copilot to work. It's just a bit of a bonus, and I just want to show you how that looks. So all the colors at the bottom of the recording will show you who spoke when. So if you just click onto the blue, it will skip into that recording for you. But we want to focus on Copilot. So I've clicked onto Copilot. Now, rather than catching up with a colleague, eating into their time, or watching 1 hour long recording and realizing there was one point that was relevant and nothing else, we want to get straight to the point. So I've asked Copilot what decisions were made during the meeting. Now, you will get a static summary right here of what was mentioned, but if you feel like you want more information, then do what I'm doing. And as you can see, Copilot has come back to say that they decided to delay their launch date for this project. And there's little citations as well, so you can hover over them and it will tell you exactly who said what, again, to verify Copilot's conclusion. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. I'm going to say, did they reach a group consensus? So did they all agree to delay this launch date? Now, what you're looking at right now is when a meeting has ended, Copilot works live during a meeting as well. So you don't have to wait until meeting ends. So I'll come back to that in a second. Now, Copilot has come back saying they delayed the launch date by 2 weeks. I've already mentioned prompting. So I'm saying, can you list me the pros and cons for delaying this launch date? And can you put it into a table for me? If I don't mention types of format that you want, it might come back in a chunky paragraph and a couple of bullet points. It might not be your preference. I was very specific. I wanted a table and that's what I've got. And, 9 times out of 10, we have follow-ups, don't we? And I want to know what they are. So I'm going to ask Copilot, can you list me those action items? And again, put it into a table format. This is really, really good for task management. There's no excuse to forget after a meeting because Copilot will basically say, these people need to do X, Y, and Z. So you can delegate tasks to them. And as you can see, although the demo has ended, on the right-hand side, you can see who needs to do what in a table format. I have already mentioned Copilot works live during meetings. So say, for example, this wasn't a webinar and we were in an internal meeting, for example, somebody has turned transcription on. That means we all have Copilot. We can start using our Copilot live. Which means you can start talking to Copilot in private. Nobody will see your prompts, and you could say, give me a summary of this meeting so far and any unresolved questions. So it gives you a bit of a helping hand. It's almost like your colleague and your AI colleague live on a call. This is a new feature, which is audio recaps. So some of you might prefer to listen to a summary rather than read the summary. So you can basically, Copilot will show you all of the meetings that you had over the past 30 days, and you can change it into a podcast. So maybe the meeting was 2 hours long. You can condense it to a 5 to 10 minute podcast. Your preference, 2 people talking to each other, 1 person talking, making it fast and concise. And then it would generate the audio recap for you. Obviously, I've grayed mine out because this was a real meeting, but you'll have different chapters here. So let's say, for example, you just wanted to focus on one area of the meeting. You can click onto that chapter and it will give you a recap of just that chapter as opposed to the entire meeting. So I'll give you an example.
Overview, let's get into how Copilot processes information and what that means for responsible use across the business. Angela broke down that when a user prompts Copilot in any Office app, it taps into Microsoft Graph, pulling data from emails, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams messages, but only what the user already has permission to see. She clarified that, unlike the free version of ChatGPT, Copilot licensed for M365 doesn't store prompts for public training or external data. That's
So hopefully that's a little bit of a refresher, because I did mention that a few minutes ago as to how does Copilot work in the background. And that was a previous meeting that I had with a client. So it is quite accurate as well with the audio recaps. Obviously I sped mine up to 1.5, but you can slow it down, you can speed it up, etc. So yeah, you can get audio recaps with your meetings as well. Now, some of you may have not heard of Loop. So Loop is actually already included within your license. It's all around project planning. So if you're brainstorming with a group of people, then sharing pages within Loop might be a good way to start. And there's templates at the bottom. So again, you don't have to start from scratch. You can follow those templates. And Copilot integrates within it. So I'm going to show you what my demo is all around. A charity cake sale. So I'm asking Copilot, can you create me a Teams channel announcement to let everyone know in the organization that we are running another charity cake sale? Keep it short, keep it sweet. It's going to be on a certain date. And as you can see, it's created me an announcement with some nice emojis. Now, if I was sharing this page with my colleague, and they have Copilot, and they were editing this page with Copilot, I will be able to see what prompt they use, because you would want to see what changes were made. If you're not like sharing a page co-editing, then no, your prompts are not shared with other people. Okay, it's just if you're co-editing something like this. So it's just myself. So I just add some funny cake jokes. You don't have to look into this in too much detail, just to keep it lighthearted again. Now I don't want to repeat from last year. So last year, maybe 6 or 7 people created the same chocolate cake. So we don't want to do that again. So I'm going to go back to Copilot. I'm going to say, Copilot, can you create me a table so people can start to populate what they're going to bring in, so we don't repeat the same sweet treats. And I'm a very, very slow typer. So as you can see, I'm typing in my prompt. And it's okay, it's not a bad prompt, but I also want to show you that Copilot is not always going to get it right the first time. I don't want anybody to feel frustrated with Copilot, because it is sometimes down to your prompt, but you can easily fix it just by redirecting Copilot or bettering your prompt. As you can see, it's created me a table, but it's not exactly what I wanted. Rather than getting frustrated and deleting it and starting again, or just not using Copilot again, then I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go back to Copilot and I'm just going to say, I didn't want this table pre-populated. And can you add some clear instructions at the bottom of the table so people know what they need to do within each column? And in a second, you will see Copilot is going to wipe that table clean, which is exactly what I wanted, and also add instructions at the bottom. The magic of Loop, you can copy an area of the page. So let's say, obviously just the table and the instructions. You don't have to share an entire page with your colleagues. You can just share an element of it. And when you copy that link, you can paste it and it will be a live snippet into an email, into Teams chats, for example, or even a Word document. People can start to populate their answers in those locations, multiple locations, and in real time, it will synchronize in real time back into your Loop page. So you don't have to keep updating the system. If somebody said they're making muffins on email, it's just going to update itself onto Loop. Okay, so that's basically a Loop component. So a bit of an educational piece on Loop, and also Copilot integrates with it. Right, so let's talk about Excel. Disclaimer, I'm not an Excel expert, so please don't look into this in too much detail because the figures might be a little bit, obscure, but this is obviously just for demo purposes and I'm trying to show you the capabilities of Copilot, okay? As you can see, I've got an Excel I've got audio on here, so it is still myself, so please, it's about 5 minutes long. As you can see, I've got an Excel spreadsheet, actually a table right here, all around bakery goods that we've sold between November 24 and December 24, how much we've sold it for, the revenue against them, the profit we've made, etc. As you can see, we've got quite a few bakery goods right here. Obviously, you might have a larger spreadsheet than my demo itself. Copilot works on tables, so if your format is not created into a table, then you can easily do that, and then Copilot will then be able to digest, understand, and provide you insights against those tables. So let's get started with how Copilot will be able to support with these bakery goods of revenue. Now, once I open up Copilot, it gives you some suggestions right here. I'm actually going to click on a suggested prompt, which is create formulas. In this case, Copilot is going to provide us a suggested column that we can actually include within our table itself. And in this case, it's providing us revenue growth between November and December 24. It even gives you the formula it's using. So if you did want to learn along the job, then you can do so, or you can just use it itself. So you can hover over insert column and immediately you can insert the column itself. Now that's provided me a little bit of inspiration. So I'm actually going to ask Copilot, can you add a column of revenue growth in November 24 and December 24, but in pounds, so we can see exactly how much it's grown or decreased between both months. And there we go, we've got it in pounds here, so I'm actually happy with that. So we're going to insert column. Now, if you don't use Excel much, you might not know what conditional formatting is, but you don't really need to. It's just about color coordinating some cells so the figures pop out of the table a little bit more easily. So we're going to ask Copilot to provide us some color coding all around profit that's been less, that shows less than £1,000. Again, it provides you the formula it's using. I wanted it in red. As you can see in my prompt, I've said highlight it in red, and I'm just going to click on to apply, and it will start to highlight the bakery goods that shows profit in December of less than £1,000, and that's exactly what I wanted. We're going to use the exact same prompt. However, we want to highlight the profits of over £3,500. So we can see which profit and bakery goods are doing the best. And there we go. It highlights those bakery goods that are doing incredibly well at the moment. Now, I want to get some more insights against the profit percentage. So I'm going to ask Copilot to provide us some icons against them to see which profit is over 40% and which bakery goods have profit percentages of under 40%. And it's providing us the icons. I'm going to click apply. And there we go. Immediately it starts to highlight which profits are under 30, which ones are over 40%, which ones are in the middle. So it's a little bit easier to understand. Now, going back to revenue growth that we've asked Copilot to create for us for this column, I don't want more conditional formatting because it might actually start to confuse Copilot because there's a few color coordinations already happening within this column. However, I do want Copilot to start to highlight which ones are reducing in revenue growth between November and December. So I'm going to ask Copilot to create us another column so it can start to say red, amber, green, of which ones are over £1,000, which ones are under £0, etc. I'm going to insert column right here and immediately it says which ones. However, it's not really popping off the page in order for us to understand it a little bit better, especially if you wanted to send this to a colleague. So I'm going to go a little bit further. I'm going to ask Copilot just to fill those cells in with the colours. Again, red, amber, green. Click apply, and there we go. It colors those cells for us, so immediately you can start to see which ones are falling below 0, so are in the minus figures, which ones are doing well, etc. And lastly, I want to ask Copilot, show some data insights. Especially if you're doing any kind of presentations, you might want to copy and paste these onto your PowerPoint slides. So in this case, it's showing us red, amber, green against the first column that we've created and some insights against them. You could add it into a new sheet, or It gives you a little bit of a blurb of what's going on, or we can click on add all insights to grid. It will create another sheet for us, and then it will show you more visual representations of what's going on within your table, so you can start to pick and choose, whether you wanted a pie chart, scatter graphs up, etc. And there's even pivot tables as well if you just wanted to focus on specific bakery goods and how well they're doing. Okay, so hopefully you get an idea of how Copilot works within Excel. Now, everything that you've seen was more for basic to moderate use. It does go all the way to advanced use. So if anybody needs more like advanced analysis, it does work with Python coding as well. So you don't actually need to be a coder, and Copilot will actually perform that Python coding itself in order to provide you more of a richer report, for example, a dashboard. So you can go a lot more further than what you've seen on screen, but hopefully you get an idea that it's based on what you ask is what you're going to get back from Copilot. Okay, so we're coming to an end of our demos. The last thing that I want to wrap up with in regards to the demos is Copilot Chat. So I would say when you do have Copilot, most likely one of the main places you'll go to is Copilot Chat, which is a place where Copilot can access everything that you can access. So, SharePoint, your emails, things in your OneDrive. Because if you go onto your emails, it can only access your emails. If you go onto your PowerPoint, yes, you'll have to attach a certain document, but it can't really access all areas that you can access. So this is a good go-to place for more general questions or bringing different elements of the business together. So it will look a little bit like this. So you have a work and a web toggle. So your work is your internal data, your web is your internet searches. You have a green shield at the top, which shows there's the data protection against this license. At the bottom, you have suggested prompts, but if you want to get more inspiration, you click onto prompt gallery, and you can even change the filters. So you can choose what department you work in, and it will filter through, and you could even save your favorite prompts, as I am doing now. So when I go into my own list, it would save it within my library. So when you click onto it, it just pre-populates into the prompt box. Now I'm going to write my own prompt. I'm going to say, Copilot, can you have a look at my emails, my Teams messages, my Teams meetings over the past 2 days and tell me the things that I haven't done? Maybe there's a couple of people that I said I'm going to reply back to and I may have forgotten. Copilot will pick up on this. I also said put it into a table format. Now this instruction, I would say I wouldn't want to change it. If I click onto this clock, I can basically tell Copilot to run it itself without me having to keep asking. So I can say, Copilot, can you schedule this prompt in every week, every month, or even every day, up to 15 times. So when you open up your laptop on a Monday morning, Copilot has already ran the prompt for you, and you would be notified on email when the response has come back, which would primarily be pretty much the same time that you schedule it. So if it's 9 o'clock, you'll get your response back at 9 o'clock or just past 9 o'clock. So you can schedule prompts. If you're never really going to change it, I would say schedule them. You can schedule up to 10 in one go. There could be some that you just want to catch up on your unread emails and what ones you need to follow up on for the following week, etc. Or what types of emails you need to follow up on based on Teams meetings, etc. Okay, so schedule meetings. Right, it can do so much more, but obviously we've only got a short amount of time, but hopefully you found those demos interesting. Let's talk about customizing your Copilot. So once you get your productivity gains from the application use, you might want a little bit more from Copilot, and you have the ability to create agents. Agents is creating your own Copilot that is a bit more job role specific. We all work in different types of roles. We all look at different types of documents. Maybe somebody works in HR and they're constantly referring to very, very heavy policy documents. You can create an agent, name it HR advisor, plug in those policy documents and tell HR advisor how to behave. So every time you ask a question, it's going to give you a response in a very specific way. So you can speak to HR advisor over Teams like you're talking to a colleague, and it will only look at those policy documents and nothing else. So it's basically getting rid of the noise, so it becomes more job role specific or even organization specific. This is an example. This is just, again, lighthearted. I've got an agent called Friday Feeling for my colleagues. I've told my agent everybody that's in my team. So I've told the agent a few quirky things about them. There's a couple of suggested prompts so my colleagues know how to use it. And I'm basically telling Copilot, can you tell me a joke about my manager? Obviously, nobody on this webinar knows my manager, but the agent does. So it's going to throw a quirky joke back. Now, there's a running joke that not everybody knows how to spell my manager's name. They type in Ant Honey rather than Anthony. So I've got a joke back. Basically, talking about his name and bringing a jar of honey to the office. So it might not be funny to everybody, but hopefully you get the idea that the agent actually knows who my manager is and has spun up a joke behind that. So you can create as bespoke agents as you want based on your requirements. Right, let's just rewind, okay? So as I mentioned, anything that you have access to, Copilot has access to. So it's really important that you work with Cobweb and the team in order to make sure that your environment is ready for Copilot. So, it can just be an easy switch on, like give you the license, but it's really good to do the due diligence first to make sure that there's no oversharing, there's no permission oversharing, there's not many SharePoint sites that's being shared externally for whatever reason, and there's sensitive information on there. So just making sure that these kind of informations like sensitive classified data is being basically locked down to only certain departments or users, because we don't want to open up a can of worms either. We don't want to give it to individuals and realize that they were over permissioned and then Copilot is giving them that information. So really work with Cobweb and the team in order to lock that down before turning on Copilot. Right, I'm going to hand the mic back to Vicky.
Thanks so much, Angela. So yeah, thanks, Angela. The demos every single time, they are just full of great things. And I think as well, it shows that I don't have enough training because there's so much new bits and pieces in there that I need more training, and that's why these webinars are so great. So Angela's popped a slide up, as you can see. There are some available offers going on at the moment. There's some new bundles, especially for SMBs, where you can get up to 35% off at the moment. That's a Microsoft promotion themselves, but of course, please get in touch with your account manager if you have any questions, if you want to talk about readiness assessments, or if you want to talk about these promos in more detail. But on the next slide, Angela, just to mention, we have some departmental webinars in a few weeks, starting on the 2nd of February. So there's one for sales, marketing, I think we've got operations, HR and finance, Angela, haven't we? So they'll be a bit like today's demos, but department specific, about 20 minutes long. So I think hopefully the link for that should be coming in the chat soon. I also think there may be a poll coming in just to see how you guys felt about Copilot, and whether today made you sway your opinion on whether you are likely to use it or not. But I just want to open the floor up to questions now. Does anyone want to ask Angela anything?
I managed to answer all your questions as I was going along.
That's always good, isn't it? It doesn't look that, isn't it? I think we've got someone typing, so we might just have a look at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if the sign up link for the webinar isn't coming in, I'll just send it, or I'll send it to your account managers, and your account managers can ping it over to you all. Did you show the features of the standard Copilot or the one on subscription?
So I'm assuming when you mean standard Copilot is the free version. So the one that I was delivering today is all the subscription version, which is the paid version of Copilot. The free version of Copilot doesn't have can access things over the web, but it doesn't have access to your Microsoft Graph that I mentioned at the very beginning. So things that's stored in SharePoint, your OneDrive, your Teams messages, for example, Copilot, your free version of Copilot doesn't have access to all of that, and you'll have to pay to create agents as well. So that's all the benefits of the subscription version.
Okay, so if there aren't any more questions from anyone, like I say, please just get in touch with your account manager if you do have any other questions or want to chat about the bundles, the offers, anything to do with readiness assessments. But otherwise, I hope that you all have a lovely day. Thank you again to Angela for running today's session, and speak again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.